Thank you for being with us. Join us at 11. Now stay tuned as news and information continues. WDTN in Dayton.
What a way to start our look back at 75 years on the air. On March 15th, 1949, we flipped the switch, broadcasting programming across the Miami Valley.
It was a limited audience back then. There were only 2,200 televisions in Dayton, and most of those were not in private homes. For those who had a TV or a chance to be near one on that day in 1949, they had a treat right away. The Texaco Star Theater featuring one of the biggest stars of all time, Milton Berle.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing America's #1 television star, the man who has captured America's heart, Milton Berle.
And you might have spotted two other big stars there at the end, a young Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, who appeared on the show during its run in the late 40s and early 50s.
Well, we had a different name on that day in 1949. We started as WLWD. Crosley Broadcasting launched WLWD, moving into a building that was intended to be a skating rink and sports complex. 75 years later, we're still located right here in that building in Moraine. Another big change, our number on the dial. We launched as WLWD Channel 5, but we didn't live there for long. In 1952, we moved to Channel 2, where we remain today. In those early days, you might see anything on WLWD, from morning variety shows to dance hall fun like Teen Time and even Howdy Doody.
Answer the phone. Who is it?
It's the chambermaid!
It's for you.
Well, friends at home, friends here in my circus, members of the Peanut Gallery, and Mr. Smith. My head and my heart are so filled with joy that, well, it's difficult for me to speak.
Of course, there were some staple programs in those early days, shows that would create stars remembered for decades here in the Miami Valley. One of the biggest stars, Ruth Lyons, who got her start in radio before transitioning to TV. She moved to Crosley in the late 1940s, bringing dozens of advertisers with her and later launching the show that would eventually become the 50/50 Club.
If we really wanted to appropriately use the word icon, she certainly was iconic. If only because a lot of the things that she did on air were not things that other performers necessarily were doing.
I never heard such tones come out.
Pear-shaped.
You were a little off again. Could you get your last note just a little up? Try to
For the famous 50 Club is on the air.
After a storied career, her final TV appearance came on January 26, 1967, ending nearly 20 years of innovation and excellence. From the moment we signed on the air, WLWD was a trailblazer in the television industry. This station was the first in the country to broadcast minor league baseball live, as well as auto racing, bowling, and even live professional wrestling. This station was also the first affiliate in the country to sign a color TV broadcasting deal with NBC. Our first color broadcast, a sporting event, the 1954 Rose Bowl. Unfortunately, no Ohio State Buckeyes in that game. Michigan State beat UCLA 28-20. Well, news has always been an important piece of that broadcast lineup. Today, we have a state-of-the-art studio, digital cameras, and social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram to support our news product. But as you can see in the beginning, things looked a lot different.
This is a family portrait, the WLWD News Family. We very seldom get them all together at one time because their job is to go where the news is being made. Now, some of these people you will know immediately because you see them on camera every day. Hear News Director Ed Hamlin and Vaughn Crable discuss a possible interview with a visiting Washington official. Alan Herbert is making notes on the areas to be covered at an important meeting at City Hall. Because of split-second shooting of fires, accidents, and late-breaking news, photographer Bob Phillips is making a last-minute check of his camera.
Today we broadcast 8.5 hours of local news programming each weekday across WDTN and our sister station, the Dayton CW. From black and white to color, our commitment to covering the biggest stories of the day has never wavered.
We sat down with longtime 2 News anchor Mark Allen on the day of our anniversary to hear his memories from his 25 years with this station. Here's part of that conversation.
You know, we thought the KKK rally was going to be the big deal that year, which turned out to be nothing, thank God. But then we had the tornadoes. Then we had the Oregon District. Then we had Detective Del Rio. I mean, to me, 2019 had to be one of the greatest challenges for journalists in this market, maybe since the flood.
And then COVID right after that.
And then COVID after that, yeah. So now you know why I retired. Yeah. The tank was empty.
For the full interview with Mark, go to WDTN.com and click on 75th Anniversary under the Community tab.
In the TV industry, change is constant, and nothing underlines that more than the technology that we use on a daily basis. 2 News Today anchor Lauren Wood walks us through the first days of WDTN, right through the high-tech world of today.
It was really a different beast when the station went on the air in 1949.
UD lecturer Roy Flynn says today you see plenty of flashy technology, but then
graphics were pretty much non-existent or extremely ancient and using art cards.
Fast forward 75 years and tech is king.
You have to keep up with it all the time because it's always moving forward.
Today it would be nearly impossible for us to get the news to you without Brian Toki, WDTN's resident IT expert. He says the reliance on tech really began around 2000 with automation.
It used to be that a person would be there with a stack of tapes of all the stories.
Even how we get video has changed.
All of our video that we didn't shoot, we'd have to get from a satellite. And we'd have to be there with a tape.
Today, high-speed internet lets us download it instantly. And those live shots you see, forget big trucks with 30-foot masts.
Wherever we can get a cell phone signal, we can get a live signal back here to the station just by having this little backpack.
Yet most of these changes,
it's all from in the background,
go unnoticed for viewers. Lauren Wood, 2 News.
Well, he went from a mid-season spur-of-the-moment replacement to one of the biggest TV stars of the 20th century. We look back at Phil Donahue's meteoric rise from Dayton to national fame. Plus,
we have raised millions of dollars for local nonprofit organizations here in the Miami Valley.
WDTN's commitment to the community has been going strong since the very beginning. The programs launched decades ago that are still making an impact today. And we found plenty of time to have fun along the way these past 75 years. As we head to break, check out this salute to some 2 News tech from long ago.
TV2 reaching out to you with a brand new broadcast tower that'll give you even brighter, clearer pictures of your favorite NBC and TV2 shows. But don't take our word alone. Listen to one of the men who built it.
Worldwide Tower built this tower, his whole crew, the boys from all over the country. We built it for Channel 2, and it'll work all the time.
You'll see the difference. TV2 reaching out to you.
Whenever I'm in Dayton, I watch TV2 with Omar Williams. Was it okay, Omar?
Could have showed a little more enthusiasm, Joe. I mean, whenever you're up in town, I don't know.
Now there's an endorsement. Hall of Famer Joe Morgan, a WDTN fan. Whether we were WLWD or WDTN, Channel 5 or Channel 2, one thing remained constant: our commitment to the community.
Well, we've been making an impact in the Dayton region since day one, and some of those programs and initiatives are still going strong today.
WDTN's annual Food for Friends project has collected...
I think that we've got 75 years of foundations laid in the Miami Valley. We're definitely a deep-rooted pillar in the community.
And a huge part of that is giving back. Each year when the barrels are rolled out, our viewers answer the call. Our Food for Friends campaign has provided hundreds of thousands of meals for 42 years.
We have raised millions of dollars for local nonprofit organizations here in the Miami Valley.
After its 40th year, our Coats for Kids campaign had its most successful year, collecting thousands of coats, but also buying thousands more as we accepted online donations for the first time.
I just think that there's something special and magical about seeing a kid who is maybe a little bit less fortunate, that, you know, gets that new coat, that new hat, those new gloves.
And the impact is undeniable.
All the stations in this market do well, you know, with community projects, but personally, no one does it better than us because of the longevity of those campaigns.
WDTN has always been at the forefront of sports in the Miami Valley. Sports Director Jack Pohl looks back at the biggest moments of the past 75 years plus.
Blinding whiteout conditions, and not only that, but like 25-foot drifts up to the
roofs.
Oh,
well, tractor trailers, they couldn't, even tractor trailers, they couldn't find them on the highway. They, you know, maybe the antenna or something was sticking up.
75 years of major weather events, how we covered everything from the Xenia tornadoes to the blizzard of '78. And we still have plenty of ground to cover and lots of fun moments to look back on, like this blast from the past.
TV2 News Team has a reputation for getting out and meeting the people. You're liable to see one or more of us anywhere in the Miami Valley area at any time. Maybe at the wheel of the Two Country mobile coach, which brings our news team to your town for news coverage and appearances. Our news team is professional, versatile, mobile. Just about any time you can expect to see us around where you live. Watch for us. Oh, and watch each night at 6 and 11 for our news program, the TV2 Newsroom Report, Dayton Television. So much more for you.
We told you about plenty of big names that got their start here at WDTN, none bigger than Phil Donahue. His locally produced talk show would quickly gain national attention. Donahue launched his show in 1967 and was soon attracting the biggest stars of the day to Dayton.
We got to think about Phil Donahue and what happened with him and going national, and to think it started right here in Dayton, Ohio, is really amazing.
I noticed, John, that you've held off going with this New York hair thing. Now, is there a pressure on you to sort of change and go with the way it is now? I noticed a lot of the other personalities do change, and they seem to have a different...
What do you mean?
Well, like the long hair in the back. Now, yours, you stay pretty straight. Does anybody tell you to change or make it longer, or...
No.
And your clothes are, well, of course, compared to Doc Severinsen, you look like...
I think this is very sharp, Phil.
I do, too.
I think that's nice if you're running a bingo game.
In 1974, Phil took his show to the Windy City, producing it in Chicago before moving to New York. After nearly 7,000 shows, Donahue's final show broadcast in 1996. Well, weather's the one thing that connects us all here in the Miami Valley, from beautiful days to severe storms. Storm Team 2 has been forecasting it all for decades, and we've been rated the most accurate in the Miami Valley for 6 years running.
We put nearly 100 years of meteorology on the couch to look back at it all. Here are Storm Team 2 Chief Meteorologist Brian Davis, Meteorologist Jamie Jarosik, and former WDTN Chief Carl Nichols.
You know, sometimes weather events can spur change in technology, and the Xenia super outbreak of '74 is probably one of those events.
Right, yeah. Well, in '74, I was in Louisville at the time, and the same complex of thunderstorms and tornadoes that came through Louisville, Louisville came through Dayton. And at the time, we really didn't have radar, we didn't have satellite. If we did, it was very minimum amount of radar and satellite. But we had one tornado that came right through Louisville and came within about a block of the station. And I went out to the back door, and you could actually see the clouds, green clouds, rotating. Wow. And that did about 300, it damaged and destroyed about 300 homes. It wasn't quite as bad as far as deaths as far as the Xenia tornado, but that was part of that afternoon where we got quite a bit of activity.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Jamie, that spurred the research and the development of Doppler radar. So that way we can see the rotation of the storms much better, sounding of those storms, so we can see what's going on.
Right.
Switching gears to talk about a more winterish event, the Great Blizzard of '78.
That was just after I got here. I got here in November of '77, didn't have much time to get prepared for anything, but then the blizzard hit in '78. We knew that Bob Breck was the chief meteorologist at the time. I was doing mornings, and we knew that we were going to get a lot of wind and a lot of snow, but it's hard to kind of describe what a blizzard is, I guess, unless you're out in Kansas. So we really didn't know. So we didn't use the term blizzard at the time. 4 o'clock in the morning, I heard the wind howling. I looked out the door. I couldn't get the front door open, but I managed to get the front door open because I was going to come into the station. Went to the car, couldn't start the car. Called Bob, and he managed to find the Jeep because there weren't any four-wheel drive cars, so he had a Jeep. We got, the Jeep driver picked myself up, went down to Springboro, picked the engineer up, got back to the station, got the station on the air, and we went on the air and started about 8 o'clock, I guess, we got on the air, and then we went, I didn't get back home until the following morning.
I woke up that morning, we lived right on East Main Street in the 900 block, and I looked out and I thought, boy, it's foggy. And then I realized I could barely see the corner of the roof. The roof down below that goes over the porch, and then I realized it was snow that was blowing so hard coming through. Visibility practically zero.
And so one thing that we probably can't skip is the Memorial Day tornadoes. You were not here for this, but I know, look, Carl still pays attention to all other information.
But I was in my basement because I was watching Brian, and Brian was tracking the storm, and it was coming almost on I-70. And then it started to take a right-hand turn.
Right mover.
And at that point, I told Bernie, and I said, we've got to get down into the basement.
We go on the air so often with, EF0 tornadoes going through cornfields, knocking down corn stalks, outhouses. And people, I think, kind of get immune, and I was afraid people would think, oh, this is just them going on with tornado warnings again. And it's like, if you don't take shelter, you're going to be dead.
This is the real
And it was a major outbreak. The people, I think all the meteorologists in Dayton, I think we really came across with the emphasis, this is a deadly situation.
A lot of history on the couch right there, and you can see that full interview right now on WDTN.com. Another thing that connects us, rooting for our favorite teams.
And we've had plenty to cheer about over the years, from Reds World Series wins to Bengals Super Bowl runs. To Sports Director Jack Pohl guides us through 75 years in WDTN sports history.
Channel 2 stepped up to the plate right off the bat. In our first year, back in 1949, we became the first station in the country to broadcast single-A minor league baseball games with the Dayton Indians.
Jack, these last 2 Dragons wins really haven't looked anything like the first 3 games of the series.
And that's good news for Dragon fans to be And here we are 75 years later broadcasting the single-A Dayton Dragon games on Dayton CW. Some things never change. We did eventually get the call up to the big leagues by airing live Cincinnati Reds games beginning in the 1950s. But it went way beyond the diamond. Our live sports coverage expanded to bringing viewers live University of Dayton home football games. And we were also the very first station in the country to televise live auto racing at the old Dayton Speedway. Our landmark sports programming continued by becoming the first station in the world to create a made-for-TV wrestling event complete with all the theatrics. Eat your heart out, WWE.
I used to have fun. They used to break my watches and tear my sport coats, but it was sort of a theater thing that we worked out.
That's Omar Williams, and you can't talk about the history of 2 Sports without mentioning him. Omar used to tell people he came to Dayton to get his feet wet and ended up drowning. Omar spent more than 4 decades as a sports director at Channel 2, earning the nickname the Dean of Sports.
Trotwood got rammed tough just in time to deliver an overtime victory and win the D3 state crown.
The heart and soul of 2 Sports has always been our high school coverage.
Hello, Miami Valley. What's Operation Football?
Back in 1986, we began covering high school football with a dedicated Friday night show, and we are still going strong.
Bringing you all the highlight scores and more straight from the gridiron.
Our Penn Station Athlete of the Month program has been around for more than 25 years, honoring one of the area's top student athletes. Channel 2 has always been big on campus. We covered live Dayton Flyer men's basketball games, and our coverage continued through UD's decades of success. Sadly, we were courtside when the pandemic brought the sports world to a halt.
March Madness is now March Sadness. The Atlantic 10 tournament was canceled this afternoon.
And when we weren't soaring with the Flyers, we were always ready to rate her up.
He gets it ahead to Dixon, and Miles Dixon skies and then does a rim hanger for two.
In addition to Wright State, we've also made the short trip to Columbus. Channel 2 has always been on the sidelines for The Ohio State University, bringing coverage of the Buckeyes' biggest games, wins, and championships. In the NFL, we've covered not one, not two, but three Bengals Super Bowl appearances. Sadly, they lost all three. But with Joe Burrow, you should check back on our 80th anniversary special. It's not just the guys we cover, it's UD and Wright State women's basketball and soccer, girls high school hoops, volleyball, and much more. Over the last 7.5 decades, we've gotten you ready for the Olympics with exclusive coverage. From the tee box to the end zone, from the three-point line to home plate, and every inch of court, speck of dirt, and blade of grass in between. Here's the 75 years of sports on WDTN Channel 2.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Condensing 75 years into 30 minutes is not easy.
Before we go, let's hear from some familiar faces of the past about being part of 75 years of WDTN.
Hi, I'm Marsha Baumhart. Congratulations, WDTN, on serving this community and broadcasting for 75 years, 3/4 of a century. I'm glad to have been a part of it.
A 75th anniversary is a diamond jubilee. I'm Barbara Kerr. Congratulations, WDTN and 2 News, a jewel in the Miami Valley.
Hi, I'm Carl Nichols. Happy 75th anniversary to WDTN.
We have plenty more to see from our 75 years on the air. You can check that out right now by going to WDTN.com and clicking on 75th anniversary under the community tab.
There you'll find full interviews and much more content about our Diamond Jubilee. We hope you've enjoyed taking this trip down memory lane as much as we've had reliving it.
Thank you for watching and have a great night.